The NIL, the name, image, and likeness, whatever you want to call it, it pretty much just started not too long ago, and already, let me repeat this, already it's falling apart. For this head coach to even speak up about this and expose the truth, I gotta give him credit. He's got some balls. Literally, and I mean literally, we made a video yesterday talking about the bad sides of the name, image, and likeness that are now getting exposed. If you didn't see that video we posted yesterday, it's lengthy, it's about 14 minutes, but trust me, it's worth the watch. The title alone speaks for itself, and we talked about how now some of these colleges and some of these quote-unquote private businesses that were handing out these millions of dollars, they're not holding up to their terms of the agreement, and they're no longer paying these kids. And like I told you in the video, I knew eventually this stuff would happen, but it's just now that it's being released to the public. There's a lot of shady stuff going on. We'll talk more about that later in this video. However, the reason I've gathered you here today is to talk about the new stuff that's happening. Out of nowhere today, Washington State's head coach came out and exposed and just went off on the transfer portal and the NIL. And ladies and gentlemen, what he said, what he exposed, it is very, and I mean very concerning to say the least. It's not every day you see current head coaches giving out this private information about stuff going on behind the scenes. That's what's alarming to me about this. I had a couple of you sending this to me and tagging it to me, and I dropped my mouth when I saw it. I don't even know what you would label this. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I'm not shocked by this news coming out, but at the same time, it's kind of disheartening knowing when we talk about college football, it's not always about the game. We're now having to talk about and focus on stuff outside the game itself. Although, yes, I know it's entertaining to watch and keep up with. You guys love the drama, and I'm right there with you. It is entertainment for us in the offseason. College football is heading in the wrong direction. And oh yeah, by the way, Deion Sanders, y'all know who it is, no introduction needed, the man of the hour, he's the guy that everybody's talking about. He even responded to it and said, he ain't lying, this is the truth. It goes without being said, we got a juicy one to get into today. We're going to talk all about it and dive deep into detail on what's going on. But real quick, we are less than 4,000 subscribers away from our goal of hitting 260K before Christmas. Y'all know the drill. If you're new to the channel or simply not subscribed, consider joining the best college football community in the entire world. If not, that's cool too. All right, Matt, blah, 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 shut the crap up. Now, without further ado, let's get into it. Oh man, I hope you guys are excited as me to get into this one because I just love talking about this stuff. Look, I get it 100%. You're sitting there saying, yo, Matt, what are you talking about? You just said in the intro, this is terrible for college football. And it is. However, at the same time, I could convince myself in 5 to 10 minutes, the NIL, it's a good thing for college football. That is the beauty of this argument. Half people like it, half people don't. Same thing with the portal. Before we get into it, I do want to say this. I am very curious. Let me know your opinions and thoughts on this down below. Hear me out, watch this video all the way through, and then drop your comments because we're probably going to make a part 3 or part 2 to this video. Okay, I got to make this clear. This is a video where you have to pay attention all the way through because if you're not paying attention for 15 seconds, you're going to miss out on major details. I'm going to dumb this down and explain it in the simplest way as possible, but if you don't pay attention, it can be confusing and really complicated. First thing is first, you see this video right here. I'm not saying you got to go watch it, but I do got to explain a little bit of it before we get into what we're really about to get into. To make an extremely long story short, an ESPN analyst, and this is a verified source, he came out and said this: I'm hearing that some talented college teams are starting to crack because of NIL payments are not being made on time, NIL promises not being kept, or jealousy among teammates. Not a value judgment on NIL, it's just human nature, the new quote-unquote new normal. Wait a minute, why did I say new twice there? It's just the new normal. You get what I'm trying to say. For those of you that have no idea what this guy's talking about, no idea what this tweet means, let me break it down, and it's pretty simple. For example, I'll just use the Texas A&M players because that's what I used as an example in last video. Remember, Texas A&M got this #1 recruiting class, all those 5- and 4-star recruits, and these said boosters, they were promising $1, $2, $3 million. Well, what's happening is they didn't just promise them, hey, we're going to give you $2 million as soon as you get on campus. They broke it up into monthly payments. So for example, we'll just use an easy number to break down. They said, okay, Chris Marshall, Denver Harris, which were 5-star recruits, we're going to give you $1 million, and every single month you're going to get paid $100K on the 15th. And what happened is when they got onto campus all throughout summer and all throughout August and September, they were receiving that $100,000 payment. It was hitting their bank account. However, as the season started to slowly progress on in November or October, November, December, they was no longer receiving those payments. And by the way, this wasn't just a thing that was happening at Texas A&M, it was happening at a lot of other schools. Like I said in yesterday's video, I could have told you this was going to happen over a year ago. Why's that? Oh, maybe because this is how these businesses operate. This is what I like to label as the reality. This is like real life. Because in the real life, you see these multi-million-dollar businesses, they're scamming people and scamming companies out of $1 million as well. This is no different from somebody owing you money, they don't pay it, and then you go to court. We see it all the time. And going back to this statement in the main tweet, and he's 100% right, it's not just a NIL problem, it's a life problem. It's the new normal. Whoa, 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 whoa. Hold on. I know exactly what you're sitting there saying. Yo, Matt, how can this be? How can a company promise a kid $2 to $3 million and they're not going to pay him the money? My friend, that is a great question, and I got a great answer. And this is where things pique my interest because it is fascinating to keep up with. You see, nobody actually knows who was giving all these Texas A&M players millions and millions of dollars. Nobody knows. There was an official company name leaked out. And remember, these universities, they're not paying the kids, so Texas A&M has nothing to do with it, or technically they have nothing to do with it. Whereas for Bryce Young, his sponsors and the people paying him money, they made it public. He posts them on his Instagram. One of them is Beats by Dre, and the other one is Nissan Heisman, or not the Heisman House, but just Nissan, the car company. I'm not going to assume many or any of you at all kept up with these Texas A&M players' Instagrams or just kept up with them off the field too much. But if you did, you would notice that none of them was posting these quote-unquote NIL deals and who was sponsoring them and blah, 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 blah. Because what happened was, and this is how you can find a loophole in the system, these people and these companies that were sponsoring them, it was basically a money laundering scheme. Going back to this tweet we talked about in yesterday's video, I don't understand how universities have anything to do with NIL. Is that not the fault of the private companies who made the deal? Yes, you're 100% right. Let me highlight that. Matt, highlight it. Private companies. That's who is behind these deals with the NIL. So with that being said, here's the loophole, ladies and gentlemen. Anybody can make a private company. Literally what happened was all these millionaire, multi-millionaire A&M boosters, alumni, whatever you want to call them, they were making up these bullcrap companies like JJ's Coffee Shop, and instead of technically saying, hey, I'm going to give you $2 million to come here, Chris Marshall or Denver Harris, it was through the coffee shop. And technically, there's nothing wrong with that because JJ's Coffee Shop, they're sponsoring that said player. That's how this was going on. Literally, me, you, or anybody can make a coffee shop and say, we want to sponsor Bryce Young, and if he agrees to it, that's what the NIL's about. It's as simple as that. It's not some major loophole that these private companies were having to dive through. And let me make this clear. I'm just using a coffee shop as an example. The Texas A&M boosters weren't coffee shops that were sponsoring these kids. And like it says right here, they were private companies. Nobody knows what they actually were. The point is, these Texas A&M boosters were pretty much just making up these companies to sponsor the kids through. So technically, it wasn't illegal. Another example I used is it would be the equivalent to when Nick Saban was recruiting Bryce Young. He was going to tell him, hey, I'll give you $2 million to come here, but I can't do it, so it's going to be through my Mercedes-Benz dealership in Tuscaloosa. For those of you that don't know, Nick Saban owns a bunch of Mercedes-Benz dealerships. So technically, if Bryce Young comes to Alabama and he's sponsored by Mercedes-Benz, but Nick Saban just put the money through the company and the check has Mercedes-Benz on it, that's not illegal. You see where I'm going with this, and I'm sorry to ramble on that, but I do want to dumb it down and explain it to everybody. I hope all that made sense. Long story short, these players were promised X amount of money, and they stopped receiving the checks. Therefore, that's why you see 25 A&M players in the portal. I said all of that to lead me into what happened today. Washington State's head coach came out and said this, and I'm going to show you the full video clip, but here's a brief summary. There's more tampering going on than you could ever imagine. We've had guys contact our players' parents. We had a coach from another school contact one of our players and offer him NIL. That is just a short part in this clip. He explains everything. Matt, roll a clip.
Okay, there's more tampering going on than you could ever imagine. Okay, we've had guys contact our players' parents. We had a coach from another school contact one of our players and offer him NIL, a coach. Okay, so there's more things going on behind the scenes that you can't even imagine. You can't even imagine the things that are happening right now to try to pry our players away from this place. Okay, and it's stunning, it's amazing, it's the new thing that, I guess comes with this portal transformation, but it's not right.
That really puts things into perspective, and it's also nice to hear a head coach speak up about this. Because we're really not going to see schools like Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, USC, or any of the big dogs complain about the NIL because it's not going to hurt them that much. And if anything, the NIL is going to help these guys. But, and I have a big but, for these smaller schools, yeah, it's going to hurt them, and you're seeing that firsthand. Here's a couple of great comments, though, and it may be what some of y'all are going to say. My thing is, if Auburn or any big-time school called him, he's going to leave, so shut up and get your school to step up. That got over 20 likes, and under that, somebody replied, difference is he's under contract and there are monetary penalties for doing so. Monetary, you get what I'm trying to say. I hear your point, but it's not the same thing. If you want to argue that, get players on contracts with breakage penalties. Yes, that is one of the best comments I've ever read. That is the problem, and the main problem with that, with the NIL. There's not contracts. These athletes, these 18-year-old kids, they don't have a team of lawyers set up to where if these companies at Texas A&M aren't paying them, they can fight them in court. Because in reality, if these big companies just tell this kid, hey, we're just going to stop paying you because you suck or you're transferring, what's the kid going to do? You think a kid with one lawyer is going to win that battle in court against a multi-million-dollar business? No. That's the problem with this. And just like your boy Deion Sanders said right here, he ain't lying. This is the truth. Let me put this into a better perspective, though, so some of y'all can understand. Because I know a lot of you're not even going to resonate with what this guy's even referring to. This head coach for Washington State, he understands he's not at Alabama, Auburn, USC, Ohio State, Michigan. He understands he's not on one of the best college football teams in the country. He understands that. He doesn't expect these five-star recruits to want to come to Washington State. The point he's trying to get across is the guys that he does have on the team, the 3 stars that weren't supposed to be really good, but they turned out to be good, they're now getting recruited by Alabama, Ohio State, Oregon, and USC. You see where I'm going. So it's almost like your smaller schools, they get penalized for taking a 2 or 3 star recruit and developing them. Why is that? Because Washington State simply doesn't have the money to keep up with the NIL. And it's a tough argument because I can't necessarily blame a kid for wanting to go to USC if he's currently at Washington State when USC is going to offer him $500,000 and Washington State can only offer him $10,000. It's the exact same thing with what happened last year with Jordan Addison at Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is not a big-time school. They don't have a big NIL department, and Jordan Addison was one of the best wide receivers in the country. Let me ask you a real legit question. Please answer this in the comment section for me. Do you really believe it was a coincidence that Jordan Addison entered the transfer portal and only about a week later he commits to USC? No! I'm sorry I had to answer the question for you, but everybody knows the answer to that. What happened was when Jordan Addison was having that amazing season last year, USC was already contacting him during the season. That is the problem with the NIL. That is the quote-unquote tampering going on that this coach is referring to. The NIL, the name, image, and likeness, whatever you want to call it, it pretty much just started not too long ago, and already, let me repeat this, already it's falling apart. You got people trying to abuse it already, and I can't blame just the college football world because that is human nature. Anytime we get something good, people are always going to try to ruin it. For this head coach to even speak up about this and expose the truth, I got to give him credit. He's got some balls. I could continue to go on and on. This video's already been way too long. Let me know your thoughts down below. But